This is Land of Havilah, Proverbs 10, verse 1. The Proverbs of Solomon. Comment in verse 1, Solomon provided a heading to this new section of the book, quote, the Proverbs of Solomon, end quote. So there's going to be a shift from this point on, from here at the beginning of chapter 10 to the middle of chapter 22, which is 13 and a half chapters. There'll be one short proverb after another, without any more introductory material, no more exhortations that we should listen, just proverbs. Hopefully we paid attention to the introduction that we should look for the wisdom in these proverbs. Now starting this section, still in verse 1. A wise son makes a glad father, but a foolish son brings grief to his mother. Comment, ordinarily parents are heavily invested in their children. If that's the case, they will be glad if the child is wise and grieved if he's foolish. This is a good time to remember the nature of a proverb, by way of repetition here, that in the first place, proverbs don't always apply. The proverb we just read doesn't apply if the parents are withdrawn, but most parents are invested in the proverb holds true, that they're glad when the child is wise and grieved when he's foolish. But we know it's not always the case that the parents are even paying attention. And the other thing to remember with the Proverbs is that even when a proverb is written in the form of a commandment, it's not a holy law and never was. God gave the law for ancient Israel through Moses, not through Solomon. And God said the law of Moses was complete. He said, do not add to it or subtract from it, Deuteronomy 4:2. So even if the proverb is in the form of a commandment, it's not strictly a commandment and never was. Solomon begged us to listen. He didn't command us to listen. We have a secular proverb, if the shoe fits, wear it. That's apropos to the biblical proverbs. If the proverb fits the situation, apply it. If it doesn't fit, don't apply it. Probably a good way to comment on some of these proverbs will be to give a short restatement of them. Please be aware your narrator isn't correcting the proverb or trying to one-up Solomon on the way it should be stated. He's just trying to bring the meaning out of the proverb. The listener can play a game of critiquing the narrator on how close he gets to the meaning. Some of the proverbs we might let go by without comment and just move straight to the next one. And as usual, we'll keep the comments light so we can make progress through the text. Verse 2, treasures of wickedness profit nothing, but righteousness delivers from death. Comment, the point is there's zero profit in wickedness and tremendous profit in righteousness. Verse 3, Yahweh will not allow the soul of the righteous to go hungry, but he thrusts away the desire of the wicked. Comment, quote, Yahweh will not allow the soul of the righteous to go hungry, end quote. Jesus said, peace I give unto you, John 14:27. The 17th century philosopher Pascal said there's a God-shaped vacuum in every human heart that only God can fill. Quote, he will not allow the soul of the righteous to go hungry, end quote. He satisfies the soul. Verse 4, he becomes poor who works with a lazy hand, but the hand of the diligent brings wealth. Comment, if you're lazy, you'll be poor, and if you're diligent, you'll be wealthy. Not always, of course, but that'll be the strong tendency. It's a prime example here that in many cases the proverbs are tendencies and probabilities. They're not absolutes. Verse 5, he who gathers in summer is a wise son, but he who sleeps during harvest is a son who causes shame. Comment, when it's time to work, it's shameful not to work. Verse 6, blessings are on the head of the righteous, but violence covers the mouth of the wicked. Comment, most people appreciate a righteous person and speak blessings on him, but the wicked person resents the righteous person. They don't say anything good about the righteous person, and truth be known, the wicked wishes harm on the righteous person. The wicked hate the righteous, Proverbs 29:27. Verse 7, the memory of the righteous is blessed, but the name of the wicked will rot. Comment, as an example of that, our elders in the family tell us a lot about our upstanding relatives who've passed away, and they tend to keep silent about the black sheep in the family. Therefore, we know a lot more about our righteous relatives than about our wicked ones. We might not even have heard of the wicked ones. The name of the wicked will rot, the proverb says. Verse 8, The wise in heart accept commandments, but a chattering fool will fall. Comment, the wise listen, but a fool runs his mouth so much you can hardly get a word in edgewise. If you try to correct him, he'll run his mouth in defense of himself and not let you explain the problem. Verse 9. He who walks blamelessly walks surely, but he who perverts his ways will be found out. Comment, the blameless has nothing to worry about. The wicked lives in fear of being discovered and in the reality of being discovered. Verse 10. One winking with the eye causes sorrow, but a chattering fool will fall. Comment, there are two things that don't work out: sending private signals for one, such as in winking, and chattering away for another. Don't be guilty of sending private signals or of chattering away. Verse 11. The mouth of the righteous is a spring of life, but violence covers the mouth of the wicked. Comment, the righteous person speaks constructive, healing, and life-giving words. The wicked person speaks destructive and wounding words. Verse 12. Hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all wrongs. Comment, hatred tears people apart. Love smooths everything over. Verse 13. Wisdom is found on the lips of him who has discernment, but a rod is for the back of him who's void of understanding. Comment, you'll either be wise or you'll suffer the consequences. If you're not wise, you'll take a beating. It won't necessarily be a beating with a literal rod on your back, but a beating in some form. Verse 14. Wise men lay up knowledge, but the mouth of the foolish is near ruin. Comment, you'll know the difference between a wise and foolish person by what comes from their mouth: knowledge from the wise and ruinous speech from the fool. Verse 15. The rich man's wealth is his strong city. The destruction of the poor is their poverty. Comment, this thing about poverty being spiritual is baloney. We need some savings to fall back on when there's no income. Build wealth if you have the opportunity, and don't feel guilty about it. It's a good thing. The rich man's wealth is his strong city. The destruction of the poor is their poverty. Verse 16. The labor of the righteous leads to life. The increase of the wicked leads to sin. Comment, there are two ways to handle wealth: righteously and wickedly. Verse 17. He is in the way of life who heeds correction, but he who forsakes reproof leads others astray. Comment, when a person won't accept correction, there's a ripple effect. Others pick up on his errors. His errors are propagated. He's poisoning the community. Quote, he who forsakes reproof leads others astray. Verse 18. He who hides hatred has lying lips. He who utters a slander is a fool. Comment, a person who hates in secret is a liar because he hates, but he's too ashamed to admit it. In the second part of the proverb, he who utters a slander is a fool. Slander is a false and harmful statement about someone that damages their reputation. It's tremendously wrong. We spend our lives building our reputations, and for someone to tear that down on false pretenses, it's just wicked to the pit of hell. Don't slander. Verse 19. In the multitude of words there's no lack of disobedience, but he who restrains his lips does wisely. Comment, the more words, the more likely we say something wrong. Verse 20. The tongue of the righteous is like choice silver. The heart of the wicked is of little worth. Comment, a righteous person is well worth listening to. There's not much to gain listening to a wicked person. Verse 21. The lips of the righteous feed many, but the foolish die for lack of understanding. Comment, a righteous person feeds many by his words. A wicked person can't even feed himself. Verse 22. Yahweh's blessing brings wealth, and he adds no trouble to it. Comment, anything from God is a thoroughly good deal. There's no downside to it. Verse 23. It's a fool's pleasure to do wickedness, but wisdom is a man of understanding's pleasure. Comment, a fool delights in wickedness, a man of understanding delights in wisdom. Verse 24. What the wicked fear will overtake them, but the desire of the righteous will be granted. Comment, the wicked knows exactly where his wickedness is taking him, and he lives in fear of it. But the righteous man looks for good things to happen, expecting that his righteousness will pay off, and it will. Verse 25. When the whirlwind passes, the wicked is no more, but the righteous stand firm forever. Comment, when the storms of life come, the wicked will get blown away, but the righteous will stand firm. Verse 26. As vinegar to the teeth and as smoke to the eyes, so is the sluggard to those who send him. Comment, a sluggard is a lazy person who doesn't get the job done. Assign him to a task and he'll irritate you with his lack of results, like smoke in your eyes and vinegar in your mouth. He'll leave you with a bad taste because he doesn't get the job done. Verse 27. The fear of Yahweh prolongs days, but the years of the wicked shall be shortened. Comment, the righteous man tends to make good decisions and live a long life. The wicked man tends to make bad decisions and live a short life. Of course, that's not always true by a long shot, but at least there's a slight tendency for it to be true. But if we're talking about eternal life or abundant life, the proverb holds absolutely true that the righteous live eternally and the wicked suffer eternal death. Whenever someone dies young, we certainly don't fault him. Isaiah strongly suggested that sometimes the young die because God is pleased with them and wants to spare them any more troubles. Isaiah 57, 1 and 2. Verse 28. The prospect of the righteous is joy, but the hope of the wicked will perish. Comment, the righteous expect good things because they know they're inviting a good payoff. The wicked expect bad things because they know they're inviting trouble and ruin. Verse 29. The way of Yahweh is a stronghold to the upright, but it's a destruction to the workers of iniquity. Comment, God will uphold the upright and destroy the wicked. Or we could take it that the upright believe God is a stronghold, but the wicked think belief in God is harmful, even destructive. Verse 30. The righteous will never be moved, but the wicked will not dwell in the land. Comment, that happens to be absolute in prophecy, that in the end times the meek will inherit the earth, Matthew 5:5, and the wicked will be gathered for destruction, 2 Thessalonians 2:8. Quote, the righteous will never be moved, but the wicked will not dwell in the land. Verse 31. The mouth of the righteous produces wisdom, but the perverse tongue will be cut off. Comment, Jesus said, out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks, Matthew 12:34. In other words, what we believe will spill over from our mouths. Verse 32. The lips of the righteous know what is acceptable, but the mouth of the wicked is perverse. Comment, the righteous know what to say. The wicked will say the wrong thing. Proverbs 11 is next.